Okay, here I would just like to give you a couple of tips on panning techniques. There's a few essential things to remember when carrying out panning shots, especially when shooting in progressive mode. In progressive, you've either got to pan very fast or very slow, otherwise there can be a danger of the dreaded judder effect creeping in. So I would recommend when out on location, do 3, 4 or 5 different speed panning shots of the same scene, from very slow to fast. That way in post-production you'll at least have choices to choose from. Another essential thing to remember in panning shots, and a lot of people often forget this, is that the beginning and end of the shot should focus on some subject matter of interest. In other words, the first and last frame of your shot, you should be able to pull them out and turn them into a stills photograph. Now here in this shot, you can see that this first frame is not really of great interest, but at least you've got the churchyard in the background, some foliage, and the St. John ambulance sign. But then as I start to pan, you can see here that it's a moderate pan, just slow enough to avoid any serious judder effect, and then it pans around to the left to reveal the church. So this end shot is a nice picturesque kind of postcard shot. This is a perfect example of how a panning shot should be carried out. Here's another example. Again, the first frame, it's hardly an oil painting, it's just a basic countryside scene with a small little country lane going off into the distance and a plain blue sky with some foliage. Then as we pan round to the left, again keep your pans very gentle, very smooth and at the same constant speed. This shot reveals a nice windmill here. Now what's also very important about panning shots, as I mentioned in the previous shot, with the first and last frame, it's important that there's something of interest in subject matter. But what's more important than that is that the last frame wants to be more important than the first. It would be pointless starting off on something of great interest and then panning round to reveal something that's somewhat lackluster. So the last frame of your panning shot definitely does not want to be upstaged by the first frame. So have the more interesting subject matter at the end of the panning shot. Here's the final example of panning techniques. This is just a relatively average opening frame of a country scene. It was a very dull and overcast day. I tried to help this shot out a little by adding a tobacco graduated filter. Now obviously on this day my eyes weren't that sharp because at the bottom left of the frame there's a piece of rubbish in the foreground that stands out like a sore thumb. I should have really spotted this and removed it from the scene to help things even further. So make sure that you have a look around the scene, and if there's anything that can be removed like this, to go ahead and do so. Now this shot is a moderate speed whip pan, and this is a typical kind of shot that you might see on the 6 o'clock news, perhaps talking about a traffic hotspot or an accident. Now as I was about to prepare this panning shot, I waited until an interesting vehicle came past first. I was waiting for a sports car or a nice bus before carrying out the panning shot. This way there's an interesting vehicle passing through the shot as opposed to just some dull old traffic. A shot like this would typically hold for a few seconds and then cut back to the studio to continue with the news.